Rose's menstrual blood was splattered all over the dorm, looking like a crime scene. In my previous life, she had spread malicious rumors, slandering me, claiming I was unhygienic and had promiscuous relations during my period, causing blood to flow everywhere in the dorm. This ruined my reputation across the entire school. I was ridiculed, despised, and isolated, eventually suffering from severe depression and dying of despair on campus. The moment I opened my eyes, I was back on the very day she turned the dorm into chaos. This time, I'd expose her immediately. Wake up, Luna. Are you hemorrhaging? A strong shake jolted me awake. From the bunk bed ladder down to the floor, it was a chaotic mess, bright red blood staining the floor and even my slippers. At first glance, it looked like some kind of crime scene. Seeing this, my mind buzzed. The familiar scene flooded my memory. I pinched my arm hard. It hurt. It wasn't a dream. My eyes immediately widened. I had been reborn. I was back on the day Rose, the campus belle, soiled the dorm with her menstrual blood and then lectured everyone about refusing to be ashamed of their period. This time, I calmly got out of bed, suppressing my disgusted expression, slipped my feet into the stained slippers and strode into the bathroom to wash up. Behind me, the other roommates were still screaming. "Hey, why did you let so much blood flow out?" As I washed, I yelled back, "It's not my blood, I'm not hurt." "You guys get down and see who did this." Rose seemed to suddenly think of something, saying loudly, "Luna, I remember you're on your period. Is this your blood overflowing?" Sarah, the class president, and another roommate immediately flared up. She shrieked, then snapped in disgust. "How unhygienic can you be? Letting that stuff flow all over the place, it's absolutely disgusting." In my previous life, I had used every reason imaginable to explain that it wasn't me. But Sarah, furious, and Rose, standing beside her, added fuel to the fire, seemingly unwilling to understand. They insisted on blaming me. Rose even spread rumors about my unhygienic habits, letting menstrual blood flow everywhere, making it known throughout the entire school. Whenever I walked around, other students would look at me with knowing smiles, pointing and whispering. Some even mocked and cursed me. Even when I explained, people thought I was just trying to cover it up. They'd flash me strange smiles at the sight of me, even maliciously fabricating and slandering me. Many said I had promiscuous relations during my period, causing heavy bleeding and making menstrual blood flow everywhere. One rumor turned into 10 into 100, each more outrageous than the last. In this life, I couldn't be bothered to argue with them. I just looked at them, then charged straight for them and pulled down my pants in front of everyone. Clearly clean, I had started my period yesterday, and my underwear and legs were spotless. It couldn't possibly be me. Seeing my blood-free underwear, Sarah fell silent. Rose, seeing my actions, first shrieked, then immediately said, "Is it possible that the blood just went straight onto the floor? It might not have gotten on your underwear." Haha, how could so many just so happen things occur? I didn't give her a chance to defame me. I let out a cold laugh and directly pulled her into the bathroom, saying loudly, "Come here. Or should I take off my underwear and throw it at you so you can see if it's my blood?" "Are you crazy, you psycho?" Startled, she yanked her arm free from my grasp, muttered, "Who wants to see?" and then stomped off. Seeing me so frantically proving myself, their doubts about me dissipated. They then began to whisper among themselves, eliminating possibilities one by one. Finally, unable to hide it any longer, Rose, the campus belle, feigned sincerity and said, "Sorry, I think I'm on my period. I wasn't careful and spilled it everywhere." This time, everyone else fell silent. I watched them coldly, saying nothing. Sarah forced a smile and said, "This blood has stained the entire floor." Then she cautiously reminded Rose to clean it up thoroughly. "Where is the floor dirty? Look at you guys with those disgusted faces. I hate people who are ashamed of their periods." Rose waved her hand dismissively, shrugging. Suddenly, she winced and, like me earlier, pulled down her pants. Her thighs were covered in bloodstains. Perhaps even she couldn't stand the sticky sensation. Only then did she grab some tissues to wipe herself cursorily, then in front of us, threw her blood-stained pants directly into the washing machine, which still contained other people's clothes. Perhaps to avoid staining her pants again, she simply didn't put on new ones, instead walking around the dorm naked from the waist down. Bloodstains occasionally dripped onto the floor. The other roommates' faces clearly showed anger, but they all suppressed it. I couldn't help but frown, still not saying a word. Sarah took a deep breath, constantly signaling me with her eyes, trying to get me to reason with her. In my previous life, everyone had long been dissatisfied with Rose's behavior and actions, but because I always stepped forward, the others could comfortably play the good cop. They would eventually turn to us, telling us not to make a big deal out of it, to calm down, and for everyone to take a step back. They all played the kind roles, while I was the foolish one who played the villain. This time, I completely ignored Sarah's gaze, remaining silent. Ha ha, after all, I wasn't the only one disgusted. Let's see who can't stand it first. Seeing the other roommates' disgusted expressions, Rose remained unmoved. She began to lecture us on refusing to be ashamed of our periods and not to be disgusted by menstrual blood, talking on and on without cleaning up. Finally, Sarah, who was a clean freak, couldn't take it anymore. She personally cleaned the floor herself, then said, "We should still pay attention to dorm hygiene or others will complain." Rose indifferently said, "Oh." Since there was class in the morning, no one had time to continue arguing about this. Seeing it was getting late, everyone hurriedly gathered their things and headed to class. After class, Rose saw me secretly taking out a sanitary pad from my bag, intending to tuck it into my jacket pocket. She immediately exposed me, covering her mouth and giggling. "Oh, Luna, are you going to change your pad? Are you using a night pad during the day, your flow?" She looked me up and down, deliberately using a suggestive tone. "I didn't realize your daytime flow was so heavy." Then she exclaimed in mock surprise, "Is it because you were exercising too intensely last night?" Oops, sorry, slip of the tongue. Psycho. Hearing her words, especially the male students, all turned their scrutinizing gazes towards me, their eyes filled with thinly veiled vulgarity. They clicked their tongues and exchanged glances as if everything was understood without words. I heard someone say, "I can't believe it. Luna looks so innocent on the outside, but behind closed doors she's so wild. Right, exercising even during her period, so sex-starved, huh? Now look, heavy bleeding, tusk, tusk, tusk." She was always like that. In places with many boys, she loved to deliberately bring up topics that made girls feel embarrassed and awkward to tease her targets, then degrade and crudely allude to others. And each time her malicious teasing attracted the attention of most of the male students. In my previous life, because I often argued with her in the dorm, telling her to pay attention to hygiene, I became her favorite target for teasing and ridicule. Each time I was teased, the other girls would breathe a sigh of relief. Because I was there, she wouldn't pick on others. This wasn't the first time I'd encountered such an outspoken girl. Publicly discussing these topics in front of boys always made people feel embarrassed and uncomfortable. But when faced with someone as shameless as Rose, the target of the teasing would often be too shy to argue or speak up, only able to endure her taunts and insults, forced to laugh along while seething with anger or tearing up in frustration. If it were before, I might have swallowed these annoying and awkward taunts. But now, having died once if she had no shame, then neither did I. What good was saving face with this kind of person? I just wanted to go crazy. Seeing my grim expression, she immediately tried to retreat. "Hey, you shouldn't get angry, okay? Having your period is completely normal. What's there to be ashamed of? We should refuse to be ashamed of our periods." Am I supposed to prove to the entire class that I'm not on my period? Impossible, and there's no way to prove it anyway. At this, I couldn't help but roll my eyes and say loudly, "I'm not ashamed. I just want to remind you that your blood is about to drip out." Then I directly pulled out the sanitary pad from my bag and threw it hard onto her desk. "Don't you want everyone to see? Well, look your fill then. I think you really need it. Don't be shy with me. Go change it quickly. You shouldn't forget what you did in the dorm today." I intentionally left the sentence hanging. Rose's face immediately flushed crimson. Normally, she was the one teasing other girls. There was no way another girl would tease her back. Everyone else, after all, was still shy and wouldn't use this method to retaliate, but I refused to hold back anymore. Seeing her stand motionless, I pushed her and said, "What's wrong? Still standing there? It's just your period. What's there to be ashamed of?" She glared at me fiercely, a hint of anxiety in her eyes, and said loudly, "What nonsense are you talking about, in broad daylight?" The boys, who had been looking at me strangely, now shifted their gaze to her. One of her followers, Mark, seeing this, even solicitously offered money, eagerly saying he wanted to help her get hot water, but his eyes kept darting to her lower half. The others were whispering, and she looked embarrassed. As I stood up, I pointed at her chair, feigning surprise. Connecting it to what I had just said about her dripping blood, everyone else's eyes immediately focused on her chair. Realizing, she quickly sat back down. This action was truly like saying, "Here I am." But very quickly, she explained, "I didn't drip any blood. What are you screaming about, you psycho?" I calmly replied, Oh, I just suddenly wanted to be surprised for a moment. What's wrong? Do you live by the sea? Controlling the sky, the earth, and even other people's mouths. Besides, I didn't say anything. Why are you making such a fuss? She looked even angrier, huffed, grabbed the sanitary pad I had thrown on her desk, and left the classroom without a word. Before leaving, she gave me a fierce glare. She never returned the sanitary pad and took it with her. I guess she really did use it. Was she really that desperate for my sanitary pad? I scoffed. No wonder she wouldn't use one in the dorm, preferring to walk around naked and drip blood everywhere. It turns out she wanted to use someone else's pad. The moment Rose entered the dorm, she hurriedly pulled down her pants and casually tossed them aside, muttering, "It's so hot, I'm suffocating." Seeing her brazen actions, we all gave her looks of displeasure. Seeing this, she let out a slight huff and said scornfully, "What are you looking at? It's just pulling down my pants. We're all girls, what's the big deal? I'm not saying you're wrong, but you guys are really old-fashioned. The Qing dynasty ended a long time ago, you know." "I just don't want to see her blood-stained butt walking around everywhere. It's an eyesore," Sarah muttered. "Please put your pants on quickly. What if you drip blood on the floor again? Menstrual blood is very dirty." Rose immediately bristled upon hearing this and began to argue. She said, "How many times have I told you guys, can you please stop being ashamed of your periods? And calling menstrual blood dirty blood doesn't at all come from our bodies. Why discriminate against menstrual blood? Plus, it's really hot. When you're on your period, you especially can't let it be so stuffy. I took off my pants to cool down and air out, you bunch of illiterates." As she spoke, a strong, fishy smell, the smell of blood, continuously emanated from her. Sarah stammered for a long time, unable to think of a retort, and remained silent. But I wouldn't indulge her. Tolerance wouldn't bring concessions from her, it would only make her more outrageous. Now it's just dripping blood. Next time, will she just pee directly in the dorm? "I heard dogs love to pee to mark their territory," I said. She said nothing, instead stepping directly onto the blood-stained metal ladder that hadn't been cleaned since morning. But her face wasn't turned towards her own bed, but towards mine. The moment she placed her hand on my bed, an alarm blared in my head. "What are you doing? Don't sit on my bed," I yelled. She turned her head and smiled provocatively at me. By now, her backside was aimed directly at my bed, ready to sit down. I instinctively rushed forward, shouting to stop her. "You're trying to annoy me, aren't you? You want to disgust me?" The thought of her menstrual blood getting on my bed made me truly furious. Why so agitated? "I'm just sitting on your bed for a bit." "So stingy," she said indifferently. Seeing me so tense, she laughed gleefully, her eyes looking at me provocatively, pretending to sit down but hesitating. I stared intently at her blood-stained backside. With her cackling, blood started to well up again, seeping out from the side of her sanitary pad, slowly flowing down her thigh, heading towards the area under my bed. Like an arrow drawn in a bow, about to be shot at me. My heart was suspended in fear by her actions. By then, I had also climbed onto the ladder. When she saw me coming up, she was clearly a bit nervous and hunched over. Matching her accelerated movements, I used all the speed my hands had in my life. In the nick of time, at the moment she was about to sit on the bed, I grabbed her own pillow from the bed next to the ladder, which was her bed, and quickly placed it under her backside. And she successfully sat down. Only she wasn't sitting on my bed, but on her own pillow. "Ah!" A piercing scream echoed in the dorm. It was Rose's voice, so she knew what was dirty too. "Why so agitated? Don't you like sitting there?" I threw her words back at her. The next second, she started crying again. If I were one of her followers, seeing her tears now, I would have died of heartbreak long ago. Unfortunately, I wasn't. So, at this moment, not only did I feel no sympathy, I even wanted to laugh. "Luna, that wasn't very nice." "Rose is crying, aren't you going to apologize?" That was Sarah's voice. This saintly class president was playing the good cop, being kind again. It's true that if the burden doesn't fall on oneself, one will never feel the pain. When I was reborn, I only thought of calmly observing everything. But I had forgotten that Rose and I had long held a deep grudge. Even if I endured now, she would never spare me. If that's the case, then I'll just go completely insane. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I ignored Sarah's words, gave a fake smile, pulled Rose down from the bed, and warned her in her ear, "If you don't leave me alone, you won't get any peace either. The barefoot don't fear the shod. If you provoke me again, at worst, we'll both die." She looked into my eyes, realizing I was telling the truth. Her expression changed from resentment to fear. She muttered, "You psycho." "Yes, I am crazy, and she drove me to it." After 2 peaceful days, I thought Rose had been scared into not causing any more trouble. But today, walking down the street, people kept staring at me as they passed by. Their gazes were clearly not benevolent, but malicious, mixed with contempt. As they walked, they whispered and pointed at me to their friends. I didn't know what they were saying. This scene immediately triggered my bad memories from my previous life, when it was just like this. Could Rose be slandering me again, saying that I used menstrual blood to stain the dorm? I quickened my pace, intending to ask a passing student, but halfway through my words, they all instinctively backed away from me, as if I were some kind of virus they feared catching. While I stood there stunned, not approaching them for a few seconds, they quickly escaped from me. Seeing this, I realized with chilling clarity that in this life, I was once again isolated. Having experienced this in my previous life, I quickly opened the school forum from memory. Sure enough, the pinned post at the top had the word, "Hot." The title read, "A female university student had promiscuous relations during her period in the dorm, leading to heavy bleeding and blood flowing everywhere." The content of the post was this very story, exaggerated and untrue. Many comments in the comment section were unreadable, including but not limited to, "So disgusting, this kind of person. Feel bad for the dorm leader having such a roommate. Hope she bleeds to death. Pure malice. How much for a dirty game like that? Dorm leader, can you ask your roommate to DM me?" My hands trembled incessantly as I kept taking screenshots to save evidence, then ran straight to the homeroom teacher's office. Knock, 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 I knocked repeatedly. Dozens of seconds later, a voice from inside said, "Come in." I explained the whole story of the post to the homeroom teacher, hoping the school could contact the administrator to delete the post as soon as possible, find the poster to publicly apologize, and restore my honor. But the homeroom teacher was silent for 2 seconds, then began to beat around the bush with me. Students these days, their minds aren't focused on important things. Why are they still having promiscuous relations? Let me tell you, girls should still keep themselves pure. If you don't listen to me now, you'll only feel pain when you get sick. What do you mean, sir? I came here for help, not to be scolded. He kept going in circles, his words nothing but lecturing me, not defending me. Sir, the post contains false information. I just explained it. So, all my words just now were treated as thin air by him? His mind only registered someone having promiscuous relations. Seeing this, I had no choice but to say, "I turned on the voice recorder when I came in earlier. I hope you can give me a fair explanation." I believed he would understand my meaning at this point. Sure enough, his face changed color after hearing that. His expression became much more serious. He snatched my phone and read the post carefully again. This time, he finally agreed to help me solve the problem. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. "Go back and wait for news," he said indifferently. The post was quickly deleted, but what was surprising was that the IP address of the poster turned out not to be Rose. The name on it was also very familiar, Mark, Rose's follower in class. I took a deep breath. Living in the same dorm as Rose every day was already bothersome enough. Now, after the incident, it turned out not to be her. But I knew for certain she was the one who instigated it. Otherwise, how would her follower know so many things, and even post to defame my honor? I sat down on the floor. What should I do? Ring, ring, ring. My phone rang. I mechanically picked it up. The homeroom teacher told me to come to his office, and a glimmer of hope rose in my heart again. Perhaps he would help me a little. "Luna, we intend to have the student who posted that apologize to you directly. Let's just let this matter go, okay?" He patted my shoulder meaningfully, adding, "The faculty performance review is coming up soon. Don't make things difficult for us." I know you're an understanding student. Seeing my lack of reaction, he began to brainwash me, talking endlessly about his own difficulties, telling me to calm down, to get along with my friends, and that making a big deal out of it wouldn't benefit anyone. This is fabrication. It has severely damaged my honor. It's insulting and slandering me. I want to report this to the police. Student this. He heard my unwillingness to concede, his tone becoming urgent. He and I were at a standstill, neither willing to give way. Seeing that it was almost time for class, I simply walked out. I came with hope, only to leave with a belly full of anger. I let out a cold laugh. Sure enough, I shouldn't have any wishful thinking about the homeroom teacher. Otherwise, in my previous life, I wouldn't have had to resort to threatening him to get him to deal with the post. He just kept playing both sides. During the break, I sat alone in a corner. I could feel strange glances occasionally directed at me. I couldn't help but clench my fists. It was all because of Rose and her follower. Just then, Mark, the one who posted the article, suddenly came up to me, threw a book hard at me, and shouted, "How disgusting are you? So shameless, daring to come to class and face everyone. How can someone like you be worthy of living in the same dorm as our campus Belle Rose?" Calm down, he's just a small fry. I took a deep breath. If I couldn't deal with Rose, this matter would never end. Seeing that I said nothing, he continued, "Do I have to spell it out for you? You're on your period and still acting so wild, making blood flow all over the dorm." Rose also chimed in, "Luna, you really are something. Don't do that again next time, okay?" I heard the whispers of others. "Isn't she on her period? Why is there so much blood?" Could it be that she had promiscuous relations with someone, got pregnant, accidentally fell in the dorm, and had a miscarriage? Insidious laughter echoed in the classroom. The teacher had left the class right after dismissal. At this moment, only students were in the classroom. I looked at Sarah and the other roommates. They were all bowing their heads, not knowing what they were doing. Not a single one spoke up. I knew they were afraid that if they stood up for me, they would offend Rose and her followers, and then they would become Rose's target for teasing and humiliation in class instead of me. Moreover, I was the one being targeted. It had nothing to do with them, so they could just ignore it. The boys' discussions became even more fervent. Rose feigned intervention. "Hey, in broad daylight, give Luna some face." Did she think I was still the person from my previous life, only capable of civilized resistance? I had already blackened. I would act in the shadows. While they were laughing loudly amongst themselves, I charged forward to Rose. I directly exposed her. "What are you pretending about? It's clearly you who had heavy bleeding and stained the dorm, and you slandered me." She was stunned for a moment, not expecting me to retort directly, but very quickly she said, "How could it be me? Or should we ask the other roommates who it really was?" Sarah still kept her head down, neither agreeing with Rose's words nor exposing her. Did she think that if others didn't speak up and didn't testify for me, I would be helpless? These so-called testimonies were the ways of civilized people, but I was a madwoman. Seeing this, I let out a cold laugh and said, "No problem. I'll pull down your pants and we'll immediately know who's fabricating lies. Let everyone see who's really bleeding and staining the dorm, okay?" Hearing my words, strange cheers and jeers erupted in the classroom, especially from the boys, whose eyes lit up. Rose felt humiliated, her face as red as a boiled shrimp, and she furiously cursed, "You're sick, go get treated, you hooligan." I said nothing, directly reached out and grabbed her pants. Mark, her follower, seeing this, also didn't want to be outdone and tried to stop me. Rose held onto her pants tightly, not letting me touch them. During the struggle, everyone started advising me to calm down. Rose was also scared. She stammered, "Luna, when dealing with people, you should leave a path for retreat. We'll still meet again in the future." Due to my limited strength alone, I was still pulled away. Seeing everyone frantically trying to dissuade me, I smiled calmly and said, "Why so tense? I was just trying to scare you a little. Do you believe me now?" Some people sighed in relief, but others still watched me intently, fearing I would go crazy. Seeing that I didn't take any action for a few minutes, everyone relaxed a little. Seeing this, I seized the opportunity to sneak up next to Rose and acted again. The moment I grabbed her waistband, she shrieked and fell straight to the ground. No way, she fainted from fright like this. Along with her sudden fall, my actions also stopped. I had truly given her a bit of a scare. In the chaotic classroom, someone called for an ambulance. Her followers frantically stopped me, afraid I would go crazy again. At the hospital, the doctor informed everyone of the diagnosis: fainting due to excessive blood loss, moderate anemia. This time, I didn't even need to prove who was bleeding heavily and staining the dorm. It was clearly Rose. The other students were also whispering. So, it was Rose who had heavy bleeding? Now look, she's straight into the hospital. How embarrassing, how vicious, slandering her own roommate, lying without a blush or a racing heart. Could the one who miscarried actually be Rose? Tisk, 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 you really can't judge a book by its cover. Her followers, their faces filled with worry, gathered around outside the hospital room. So loyal. I pretended to walk past casually, talking to myself. Oh, losing so much blood that she's anemic. If she doesn't eat something to replenish blood, what if she doesn't have any blood left to bleed later? I saw his footsteps stop. Good, he heard it. I bowed my head, the corner of my mouth curving upwards. That was precisely for him to hear. Eat blood tonics while on your period, let it supplement you to the fullest. Rose woke up and found a crowd of people gathered outside her room, pointing at her. She was bewildered. As the main door opened, Mark, her follower, brought her a bowl of blood tonic soup to drink. Her mouth was very dry, and without asking what the tonic was, she directly took it and drank it all, even praising its taste. Mark solicitously said, "I'll stew it for you every day from now on." At this moment, the conversations from outside the door also drifted in. "You guys, look how diligently those boys are taking care of her. Could they have had promiscuous relations with Rose? It's an eyesore. Aren't these guys jealous, all surrounding her? Our Rose is truly a master of time management." Hearing the conversations, she was a little flustered. How did the person spreading rumors turn into her? "What nonsense are you talking about? All of you, shut up," she yelled outside. The students were silent for a few seconds, then burst into laughter again. Rose tried to explain, but the students all reacted indifferently. I looked at her face and chuckled. I even sent her a message, feigning comfort. "Rose, we must refuse to be ashamed of our periods. Everyone is talking about this because they care about you." Through the glass, I saw her throw her phone hard onto the hospital bed. She never replied to my message. She saw that no one believed her, and she cried like rain, wanting to appear pitiful, saying she wasn't on her period. Unfortunately, this time the evidence was clear. The doctor had already told her to rest more during her period. With official confirmation, no matter how much she argued, it was useless. The students walked away but continued to gossip. Everyone was convinced that she was the one who had stained the dorm. Finally, I was vindicated. That day, I don't know who posted this story on the school forum. This time, public opinion exploded even more violently. Since she was the campus belle, the number of people interested in gossip about her was like ants. Many also had unpleasant speculations about her heavy bleeding leading to hospitalization. Just like me in my previous life, the cause of her illness was exaggerated from one rumor to 10, then 10 to 100, becoming more and more outrageous. By the time she found out, it was too late. Just like me back then, when the target of malicious teasing became her, she could truly feel this predicament. Her fainting and hospitalization due to excessive blood loss were both unexpected and perfectly logical. It turned out her blood flow was already so heavy that she had lost too much blood. No wonder she had made the dorm look like a crime scene, bleeding so much everywhere. Rose's glorious achievements also spread widely throughout the school. Rose wanted to seek help from the school, but the homeroom teacher, just like he did with me before, brushed her off, hoping to maintain harmony. How did I know? Because Rose complained to others and it reached my ears. Days passed quickly. She had just returned to school, and before she had even attended a few classes, there was new bad news. She was rushed to the emergency room again. Because she had consumed too many blood tonics during her period, her bleeding became even more severe. Only then did she realize that the soups Mark stewed for her every day were actually blood tonics, but what was done was done. Eventually, her heavy bleeding symptoms worsened, and she was admitted to the ICU for emergency treatment. I felt a bit bittersweet about this, but I absolutely had no regrets. In my previous life, she had never considered what predicament I would fall into after fabricating stories about me staining the dorm with menstrual blood, blaming me, and spreading rumors everywhere, causing me to suffer from severe depression. She even feigned kindness, telling me to refuse to be ashamed of my period and not to care about what others said. In this life, she still used similar tactics, even having her follower post the article, making it impossible for me to do anything to her. Even if I confronted her or called the police, she could just say, "What does that have to do with me? I didn't do it, don't slander me." I truly had no evidence that Rose was the one who instigated the post. But now she had suffered her karma and it had backfired on her. This time, she truly reaped what she sowed. Besides her, her accomplice, Mark the poster, also didn't escape. I hadn't forgotten how maliciously Mark had slandered me. I was waiting for the moment when Rose's consumption of blood tonic soup would lead to trouble. Settling accounts, initially, Mark the poster fabricated lies about me, and the homeroom teacher refused to step in, not wanting me to make a big deal out of it. But I wouldn't listen. They had no right to forgive these harms on my behalf. I wanted them all to suffer their karma. So this time, waiting for so long, I finally had enough evidence to counterattack them. After Rose was rushed to the emergency room due to worsening heavy bleeding, with her life in critical condition, I finally made my move. Even if Rose wanted to forgive her follower, forgive him for cooking blood tonic soup that harmed her, I would not. At this point, I finally called the police to press charges against Mark, the poster. The reasons: besides posting fabricated, insulting, and defamatory content against me, causing me severe harm, also included his intentional infliction of harm on Rose by cooking blood tonic soup that led to Rose being admitted to the emergency room. As for why he harmed Rose, I had already thought of a reason for him. Didn't they love to fabricate stories and spread rumors? This time, let Rose and her follower be the main characters of the story too. The second day after calling the police, an anonymous post about a male student, after failing to win the campus belle's affection, turned his love into hatred and harmed her, leading her to the ICU, went viral online. It reached the top of search trends overnight. The post was not uploaded by me, but the content was what I had told other students, and all my words emphasized. I only heard it, I don't know if it's true or false. To avoid implicating myself, I wanted to live a clean life. Afterwards, my lawsuit against Mark was a big win. He was directly arrested and sent to prison. In court, seeing the irrefutable evidence to get a reduced sentence, he could only cry bitterly, repenting to me, wanting to beg for my forgiveness. I also faked tears for half a day but firmly refused to say, "I forgive you," instead continuously emphasizing how severely I had been harmed. Later, Rose was saved, but she was very haggard, seemingly left with some permanent sequelae. But not long after she returned to school, unable to bear the pointing and whispering of everyone, she transferred schools. At this point, everything had ended. My defamed honor had also been restored. The strongest effect of clarification and whitewashing is when public opinion hits rock bottom. Because I was the victim, everyone not only changed their attitude towards me, but also became friendlier towards me. Many students, admiring my counterattack, became my fans. And as soon as any malicious words about me appeared, someone would immediately step forward to defend me. The road ahead would be filled with beautiful sunny days.